Hello, this is Safakhan from Safakhan.com, and this is the first part of a tutorial series on how to make a tower defense game using Processing 2. Processing 2 is an open source cross-platform development environment / programming language, and you can get that at processing.org. Also, check out my website, Safakhan.com, where you'll find freely available all the data files and source code that we use in this tutorial series. So let's check out those data files. These three here are what we're going to be using in this video for just to lay out the background and the path. There are also some sprites that I worked on up here, but we won't be getting to those in this video, but yeah, they're there, and I will be adding more to those as the series progresses. So yeah, check that out. Alright, so far all I have is an empty sketch. I named it Tower Defense. Let's open up our sketch folder. That way we could just copy over our data folder into there, and that's exactly how we want it. Everything inside the data folder. Okay, so before we get started, I want to show you where we'll be at the end of this video, because we're going to go through a lot of coding before we actually see any results. So yeah, there it is. We're just going to lay out the background and create, so this area is our play window where you see the images, and then just below that we're going to call that menu, and that's where all the user interface stuff will take place. You know, like it'll show resources, possibly info on the upcoming waves. That's where the player will be able to choose which towers he wants to create and upgrade and that kind of thing. And then this is where the towers will actually be. And the creeps will run along the path here trying to get to the end. So yeah, pretty simple cookie cutter tower defense. Mainly what we're going to be working on in this video is, as you can see, there's a grid laid out, and so that'll be the foundation for the gameplay mechanics as far as tower building goes. So we're gonna create the grid in this video and just show, as you can see, like whenever we hover over a cell, the cell becomes outlined. So the grid is 20 across and 13 down. But anyway, let's get started. So we're going to start by creating some static variables. So we'll start with width. We'll make that 640, but this is flexible, so you can actually set that to whatever you want. And then the rest of these static variables will be generated from whatever you set there. So we'll do width. So, alright, so the next one is height. Height. And we'll cast it off as an int because we're going to be multiplying by a decimal here. Whoops. Okay. Let me just get comfortable. Alright, sorry about that. So width times 0.8. And the next one we're going to do play window height, which is a float. And that'll be width times 0.65. And then we'll do cell size, another float. And that'll be width divided by 20. So 20 across, and then based on this math here, 13 down. And then we'll do menu position Y. So menu position X is going to be 0 because it's going to be right just at the left, starting at the left end of the screen. but menu position Y, we want it just under the play window. So we'll do whatever the play window height is, +1. And then menu height is going to be height minus menu position Y. So what that means is just wherever it is, take up the rest of the screen. Alright, so let's work on our setup function. Setup. The first thing that we always want to do in setup is set the size. So we'll just set it to use the variables that we made for width and height. Okay. So let's test that out. Oh. Let's make sure that we name it a float and not a flout. And then another guy, AGI, GHT. Sorry about that. Some typos there. Okay, so that's our window so far. I'll set to our width and height. Let's get some images in there. So we'll do pimage. I'm going to open up our sketch folder. Alright, so in data, these are the 3 images that we'll be using. So the first one we're going to call field. So that'll be just the field, and then path, and then we want to load an image in for the path mask as well. So we'll do path mask. Alright, so let's set these variables up down here in setup. The field is going to be load image, and then we'll use grass.png. Path is going to be dirt.png, and path mask will be dirt-mask.png. Alright. And the next thing that we could do is actually set up the mask for our path. So we'll do path.mask and then pass in the path mask variable. So that'll set this image up as our path's alpha mask. And what that does is it uses the grayscale value of this image to determine the opacity of the image that we're masking. So anything that is in black will be completely transparent. Anything in white will be completely opaque, and then grays will be set alpha value based on its gray value. So all right, so now that those are set up, let's draw them out, and we want to draw them every frame, so we'll do it during the draw call. And we'll do the field first, so we'll do image field. So yeah, we want the field to be the background, so we'll draw that first each frame. So this is actually so for position, we just want it in the top corner, so 0, 0, and then the size is going to be same width as our window, and same height as our play window, so play window height. And then let me scroll down. We'll do the same thing for our path, and then so it'll be the same variables. Alright, so let's check that out. I'm having trouble typing today, but that's okay. Alright, so there it is. Our images are laid out. We really have so far have just thrown them on there. There's no real significance yet, but we'll be working on that. So, but I think we're off to a good start. So now let's get down to some important stuff. Let's create the grid. So in order to, for our grid, we're going to want cells. So we'll make a class called cells. So uh, class cell. All right, and we'll start off with basic. We'll start off real basic in this tutorial, and we'll expand on this cell class later. But for now, all that we want to know is where the cell is. So its x and y coordinates on the grid. All right, so with that, we'll make a basic constructor. Oops. Cell underscore x underscore y, and then we'll set the values here. Alright, so that's our basic cell class. Let's actually create a function in here called outline me. So outline me, and this is going to be called whenever we're hovered over that particular cell. It'll just draw its outline. So we'll do no fill because we want it to only be the outline, and then we'll do stroke. So set the outline color, and we'll make that green for now. So 0 0 ff 0 0, and then we'll create the rectangle, and rect. So the x coordinate. So the position of the rectangle is going to be the x coordinate times cell size. So right at the corner where the so we'll do the same thing with y, and that'll make it right at the corner where the cell actually starts. And then its size, just cell size. Alright, and that should be it for that. So let's get to making the grid. So a grid is going to be a two-dimensional array of these cells that we just created. So we'll do grid, new cell. So we want it to fill the play window exactly. So again, like I said before, with this math, it's going to be 20 across and 13 down. Alright, so we can initialize the grid here and set up. So we'll just say initialize grid. Okay. Alright, let's clean this up. Alright, so we'll do that with a double for loop, and that'll allow us to iterate through each cell in the two-dimensional array. So let's do that, and I'll explain a little more once we have it set up. So x is 0 while it's less than grid.length, and then just increment. Actually, this is x. And then we'll do the same thing for y within this for loop. So y 0, y, except we'll use grid 0.length, which is the 13 there. So this is 20 is grid.length, 13 is grid 0.length. Y plus plus. Okay, and so what this is doing, in case you've never seen a double for loop, is it's just iterating through this number and then doing this code that amount of times. So it's iterating through each of the x coordinates, but within each iteration it is iterating through each of the y. So this is how it's working. It's starting here and just going down, and then once we get to the bottom, it'll come back up and slide over one. So it'll just be like that, ding 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 ding. Okay, so that's really convenient for us because that gives us all the coordinates that we need to create cells using the appropriate coordinates. So we'll do grid x, y. So this is so we're working with that coordinate of the grid. We're going to create a new cell, and cast in its coordinates so that it knows where it's at as well. All right, so that's that. Now let's actually use the outline me function that we created. That way we could visualize the grid. So to do that, we're going to drop just underneath the draw function, and we'll create a new function called mouse check. And this is just going to calculate where our mouse position is in relationship to the grid. So we'll cast it off as an int. So so mouse x, wherever our mouse position is, divided by cell size. So that'll give us a valid grid coordinate. Then we'll do the same thing for y. All right, so now we could do grid x, y dot outline me, but there's one thing that we might be forgetting, because we're always checking this, so we would always be calling it. So if we're not hovered over where the grid actually is, we will get an error because we'll be asking for something that's outside the bounds of the array. So this would work for the entire play window perfectly, but as soon as we hover over our user interface or menu area, we would get an error because we'd be asking for something that isn't within the bounds of our grid. So let's make sure that before we do this, that we're accessing a valid cell or referencing a valid cell. So we'll do if x is less than grid dot length and y is less than grid 1 or grid 0 dot length. All right, so that should work. And if we hover over, if we hover over, let me just fix this. So this should actually be a semicolon. So now if we hover over the menu area, we won't get that error. But one thing that we're actually not doing yet that we need to make sure that we do is call the mouse check function that we created every frame. So we'll just do that last thing in draw, and we'll restart that, and there it is, drawing out the outlining the cells based on where our mouse position is. Okay, so now yeah, and if we go over the menu, we don't get the error that we would have gotten otherwise. So yeah, that's it for this video. In our next video, we're gonna start, I think we're gonna start by defining what a tower is and just being able to just create towers just by clicking, for debug purposes. And yeah, so we'll go from there. And yeah, so check out my website again. Any of the data files and the source code are freely available there. It's sofacon.com. Yeah, but thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.